This is Chris with P2T Canine, joined this morning by Mia. She's here for a little bit of training, and I'm just letting her run around this morning and decompress while I hang out and do this and let her warm up to me a little bit more. But welcome back to Dog Talks, starting off 2026. Let me go ahead and get a little terrain association with where we're at and what we're doing right now. I'm late with this video and late by a mile, and I apologize for that. This is January of 2026. This is going to be the first Dog Talk of 2026. The subject is going to be going back to the second week of November, just ahead of Thanksgiving. And then, of course, I had family in for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I'd been meaning to do this video since coming back from the seminar that I'm going to discuss that took place in the second week of November, and I'm just now getting around to it, but that's where we are. And we are referencing the ALECHA, the American Law Enforcement Canine Handler Association seminar, which is hosted by the DeSoto County, Mississippi Sheriff's Department, with Lieutenant Paul Leslie in charge of that and runs that program, and he does a phenomenal job. And the DeSoto County Sheriff's Department and the sheriff himself are very supportive of this, and it's a great event. I hope you will check it out for 2026. It's definitely worth a look if you're in the area. It's well attended. We had a big presence this past November. Handlers from Texas. We had, of course, Skinny and Bill bringing in part of their crew from the Iowa, Kansas City, Missouri area. We had handlers in from Alabama, North Carolina, a really well attended event. So what is this about? You probably already read the title. I'm going to be pulling several elements, a couple from past videos, but I know not everybody watches everything, and some things that were in those other videos are certainly relevant to the topic at hand. The video obviously is titled Basic Course Syndrome. This is probably one of the most pervasive things that I have watched over the last few years, especially in the law enforcement community, is what I'm calling the basic course syndrome, where the things that you participated in during the basic course and when you first got your dog and your dog was being brought along and developed, getting you street ready so you can go out and conduct your duties with whatever agency that you belong to, these things leave a real impression on the handlers, and they just can't seem to shake it. This is for agencies coast to coast. This isn't really talking about one state or one program in particular, and that's why I find it most relevant, is because I am looking at a large cross section, a huge sample size of departments and agencies and teams, and this is pervasive. This touches agencies that don't train together. They're not in the same training group. They're not even in the same state. They're separated by multiple states, but I'm seeing a lot of the same things come up to the surface. So the bad muscle memory that takes place, and I've talked about this in some other videos, the bad muscle memory is in the basic course, we are trying to train the dog. We need the dog to make sense of certain information, cross bridges in their head to let them mentally understand, oh, I can do this, or this is something I'm allowed to do, or this is something that if presented to me, if I stick with it long enough and show enough persistence and effort, then I'm going to be able to succeed and win some kind of a reward or something that I'm trying to accomplish, whether it's grabbing a bad guy and getting that bite, if it's locating and giving a final alert on some kind of odor and being able to win that reward toy, or doing something that just wins the praise and affection of the handler. The dog is out there being presented with these things, and we're trying to show them the way through. This is what you need to do, and if you accomplish A, then you're going to get B. So once we leave the basic course, we need to start moving and developing into a deployable, street ready or combat ready team, which means we're going to have to start working together with your dog. I'm going to probably reference another guy that I communicate with very regularly. I can only say that it is a serious program. It is stateside law enforcement. This guy and the program that he is associated with is doing work as high end this side of the GWAT as you will find stateside. It is the real deal. The targets they are doing are very serious. The only thing that this guy and the program he's involved with, the only thing they're missing is probably free fall operations or fast roping. Outside of that, this is very high end tactical application canine. So under nods, working with laser directionals with the dogs, trying to get them to target people, guys that are extremely dangerous, armed and dangerous. As I've spoken about in other videos, this isn't the pretend CQB, I'm going to add my dog to the mix and then be completely mentally wrecked when this dog gets killed during one of these missions or targets. These guys are doing high-end stuff, and they know that that is baked into the cake. Their program knows it. So, like I said, this is as high-end as you're going to see in stateside law enforcement. We communicate regularly on a host of subjects, and we have really interesting, productive talks, and I'm going to bring some of that into this subject so that we can fully understand where we're trying to go, because even with this guy and the program that he's involved with, some of these concepts are still holding mentally this guy and the training of their program and the preparation of their dogs back, because the anthropomorphic angle of this, the people putting their thought process into what the dog needs or what the dog thinks, or assigning values and motives to dogs' behaviors that simply don't exist because they don't see the world the way we do. It's holding them back in small areas as well. Now, they're having a lot of success and they're doing well, obviously, and they're taking on very complex, high-end targets, but you can always be better. And it's these small little things that we discuss on a regular basis that we're trying to clean up and improve and change the way of thinking within the unit in order to make a better, more street-worthy product. So, going back to the seminar, we ran, Jason Stanzi and I, and a handler from Dothan, Alabama, was involved on the patrol side. Bill and Skinny, they were also doing patrol stuff as well, but we had a patrol venue for this week for this seminar. The venue is quite incredible. It is an abandoned hotel and casino. I'm not going to add any of the B-roll or still pictures into it. If you want to see those, go check out my Instagram, P2TK9 on the Instagrams, because I've got some reels and some pictures over there that show the venue. And if you go back into my history a little bit further, then you're going to see other visits that I've had there when participating with this seminar and this venue as well. So it's an abandoned hotel and casino, no electricity whatsoever. It's extremely rough. There is still a ton of square footage and training space that's available, but it's pretty much what you would figure for an abandoned building. It's dirty, dusty, funky. Once in a while, the local sheriff's department goes over there to train, and they find the copper thieves and everything else associated with an abandoned structure of that size. So when we go in there, we're going to get everybody warmed up with a little bit of patrol for the first 2 days. We go in there, we start looking at what we're going to set up, and we are again trying to challenge the canine team. The team is a handler with an opposable thumb and a larger, higher functioning brain between their ears, and a well-trained dog that's ready to go out and perform some kind of a task that we've trained into the dog to make them useful for our tactical objectives, and to use them as some kind of a tool to get an end result that we're looking for. Where does the basic course syndrome come into conflict with this? In the basic course, and worst of all, because the basic course syndrome gets ingrained into so many agencies and personnel and training programs, that it doesn't stop with just a basic course. It makes its way into your normal training schedule, whether that's bi-weekly, weekly, if you are really blessed and have a great department where they let you train weekly, or if it's on a monthly basis, the way it was at my agency. because basic course syndrome is just so insidious, you find it creeping into your training day, even though your deployments at this point look a whole lot different than what your training day looks like. And we've heard that old adage for years and years and years. You got to train like you fight. You got to prepare for real world encounters. But then when it comes to the dog piece, I see so many programs that aren't living by that. And in fact, because of this anthropomorphic mindset, they actually run counter to it and run against it. So when I'm talking about, and at this seminar, it's a working seminar with a competition component associated with it. So the first 2 days, we're running all these teams through the venues, the odor detection, patrol venues, vehicle extractions, things like this. And then the next 2 days are going to be putting everyone back through a different scenario based around the same kind of core training that we did the first 2 days, and have some kind of a scoring metric where we can go back and establish a hierarchy. And it's not just a speed run. It's not just a stopwatch end to end. There's going to be some scoring components. We're going to need accuracy and effectiveness as well as tactics baked into the cake, as well as a time component. And we come up with a scoring matrix so that we can score all of these events. So on the first day, I did a little bit of work here on the whiteboard to give you an idea of what we were up to. I am a huge proponent of having multiple decoys and role players in patrol-based seminars, because in the real world, that's what you have to be prepared for. I did a seminar many years ago. It was the title was a tactical asset management seminar, because all of the things that you have at your disposal are tactical assets. You've got a backup officer, you have a radio, you have a dog, because it is a dog-based seminar then and now for the discussion. But we have all of these different tools available, and it's your job as the thinking end of the canine team to decide the when and the how of applying these tools to get the best result. Sometimes a tool can be used and then is not able to be used again. If that's why weapon retention is big. Don't let your weapon get away from you, because now not only do you not have the use of it, but by virtue of you not having it, you may have made it available to be used by someone else against you. So that's what tactical asset management looks like. Using the right tool at the right time for the right outcome, and not having that tool become a liability or just a combat loss altogether. If I throw trash into another room, an empty water bottle, and your dog chases it, and then I close the door behind it, that tactical asset, because you were running it off leash and allowing the dog to do a bunch of free hunting, now your dog has been physically locked behind a barrier and you can't even recall it. That asset under tactical asset management is now gone. It's not coming back, and you don't have it to use again until you go over there and free it, and there might be 1 or 2 people in your way. So when I talk about that from the tactical asset management seminar, it's the old country adage about snakes. If there's 1, there's 2. If there's 2, there's 3. You want to live by that +1 rule. No matter who you find, you need to be ready to finish the sweep of your area, finish the clearing, finish the target, and make sure that you aren't about to get ambushed by a 2nd or 3rd or 4th suspect, enemy fighter, whatever the case may be, on that target. So first day, we're at this abandoned casino. It's got 2 theaters in there, gaming floor, food service buffet area, and then all of the hotel rooms, multiple floors, and we'll get into that next. First day, we're going into one of the giant theaters in there. It's a huge space. It's completely blacked out. There's no light in there. And we're going to put a 2 decoy scenario together to present to our officers. So we're going to bring them in from the interior of the casino. We're going to route them through double doors, kind of mid-level in the seating, the way you'd be familiar with any theater or indoor space for entertainment. Then we are down on the stage. The stage has 2 trap doors in it, which are going to be this box right here. And there's a whole sub-level to the stage for supporting productions and different things like that when it was a working casino with a theater. And so Jason Stanzi is down here underneath the stage. He's in his bike gear. He's ready to go. I am up on top of the stage, and these ovals right here, these are half sections. Make sure Mia's not getting into trouble. These are half sections of big high back couches. Think about this nice stage show theater in a casino. They've got these big horseshoe style booths that have the tables in the middle, and it's real high back seating, very, very comfortable. You could probably put a group of 6 or 8 people at one of these tables. And so I took the seating and I spun 2 of them together and pushed them end to end, which is what these 2 ovals are. These are 2 couches that are pushed together, and now they physically cut off anything from the outside. You have to come over the top to get down into the middle of this little bowl that I've created. And why are there 2 of them here? With Stanzi in this hole underneath the stage in the sub-level, I'm up here on top of the stage, and I want to see if we can get officers and or dogs tunnel vision on one guy in particular and get them to be so focused on that they leave good tactics and start focusing on something before they should, before it's tactically prudent to do so, and living by that +1 protocol that I always want everybody to think about, and then making sure that before you engage a target that you've got some white space, that you have secured your immediate surroundings, and that you are able to look at something like this hole in the floor going to a sub-level for a guy who is possibly down there without leaving yourself vulnerable. So here's the setup. I am in the middle of these 2 couches over here. My dry erase marker just started going on the fritz. Now, why am I over here with this blank one in between us? I have been in canine for 27 years now, and I have both been a participant in seminars as a handler. I've been a judge at competitions. I have been the lead instructor for seminars that I have put on, and I have probably tens of thousands of hours of observation of canine teams from all over the place, law enforcement, all levels of the military programs, from regular Army and Air Force MPs all the way up to your absolute Tier 1 elements that participate with the dog program. And having done that, I have a massive sample of what do handlers tend to do. And looking at the basic course syndrome, what does that lead a lot of handlers to do? I wanted to put 2 couches together. If I have 1 couch in a circle configuration like this, it's an albatross. It's going to be so obvious that anybody who can fog a mirror will probably, on their way to this hole in the stage, shine a flashlight over top of that and just do a quick peek over the top of this thing. But because I'm trying to get them tunnel visioned on the hole in the stage, most of them are going to do the lazy, easy thing, and they might do a cursory check of the one closest to the hole in the floor, and they're going to leave this one alone. And that is exactly what happened. Now, why would they ignore me right here and go to the hole in the stage? That's a great question, because it has a subfloor, and this thing is basically plywood decking over a frame with this little area underneath the stage. I am looking just over the top of the couch cushions, so as the canine teams clear their way up to the double doors, I can see them starting to enter the seating area. As they start towards the stage, I take the toe of my boot and I kick the stage 2 or 3 times so that Jason underneath the stage can hear me, and that's my signal to him that the team is moving our way. His job is to simulate being a copper thief in action, and he starts taking two metal pipes and he's banging on pipes down there in the basement. Why are we doing that? Couple of reasons. I want to test what the training of the dog looks like, and I want to test what the tactical training and training mindset is of the handlers, and see if they're doing what we actually want them to do, which is be a cohesive canine team, that you use your asset, that you don't completely disregard all logic and tactics because you have a canine and you're only relying on your asset to see if it can give you a favorable outcome. So dogs would come over. I had some cushions moved at the bottoms of the couch, so I could actually take a knee and I could look down underneath this opening in the bottom of the couches. Now, I would lay on the bench cushions because before the handlers came on stage, at floor level at auditorium seating, they could shine their lights, and that light could go right underneath that couch and could actually light me up, and they could see me on their own. So I would lay on the bench seat until they got up on stage level, and then I would drop down to the floor, because now that they're on stage level, their line of sight is going to be a little bit better for looking over the couch and seeing me if I was laying on the seating cushions. So I went down another level to the floor, because the aforementioned hours and hours of observation I have of trainers, especially, unfortunately, our stateside law enforcement, are typically too lazy to take a knee and do a low quick peek underneath that once they get up closer to that couch. If they looked from the floor, and some of them did, I saw them sweep their light underneath that opening from the floor, then they weren't going to hit it again once they got on stage. Once they got on stage, if they hadn't swept it from the floor, if they just scanned over the top of it but didn't walk over there and peer down into the bottom, and again, think luxury seating. These are high back couches. It's probably, even with my head, even as tall as I am at 6'6", it provided a lot of obscurement and concealment to me, so that it was tougher for them to look over the top and see me unless they really looked right over the top at me. So let's talk about the outcome. I signal to Jason under the stage, boom, boom, I stomp my foot, and then the banging of the metal begins. Several dogs would be over here. You checking along too, Mia? You trying to watch? Several dogs would come right up to those open cushions that I talked about, and I'm eyeball to eyeball with these dogs, and they're doing brackets. And then when all of the commotion started under the stage, some dogs would pull off of me and run over there and go on ears. They would come off nose and go on ear, and they would start keying up on the sound coming from underneath the stage. For a lot of handlers, unfortunately, that was good enough. I hear the noise as the handler, the dog has gone over there. Some handlers at this point just bought in completely wholesale onto the hole in the floor. I'm in a full suit for safety. This had a very small ladder that went down the back, and a lot of officers, because now post GWAT, the working vest for dogs has become pretty commonplace for a lot of law enforcement agencies. These officers started hooking their long line to the vest and lowering the dog through the hole in the floor down to the sub-level underneath the stage. Nothing wrong with that, provided you have conducted your tactical due diligence and you have secured this reasonably as white space, and now you know that you aren't threatened from an unclear area that is much closer to you, and you aren't tunnel visioned on this little sub-basement. As soon as they committed to holding that dog on that line and started over the edge, I would quietly slip over the top of the couch back, and I would run over there. Remember, this is complete darkness and they've got their flashlight over the hole. I would run up and grab these officers and bear hug them from behind, and oftentimes put my hand on their weapon and give a couple of tugs on their holster, hopefully driving the point home that you need to worry about what is behind you, and weapon retention can come into play. I'm trying to think, out of 22 or 24 patrol teams that did this, I think I had 2 guys physically give me resistance and try to fight me. They felt me grab them from behind. They felt me grab their holster. They threw some elbows. They did some stiff arms, tried to create some distance, tried to go into some arm bar or other type of a restraint move in order to get me off of them and get me under control. I think it was two. That is terrible. A couple of them, I'm dragging them backwards, yanking on the grip of their firearm, telling them, fight me, fight me, fight me right now. You have got to save your own life. Now, because we are in a building with no electricity on, and the officer is usually holding a flashlight or a light mounted to a weapon, they're calling their dog. Basic course syndrome at its finest. The dog is a tactical asset. If someone has their arms around you and is pulling on the weapon in your holster or trying to physically restrain you, that tactical asset has not won the day at that point. And as I'm pulling them backwards, they're calling their dog, Foofy, whatever, Foofy, Spike, Fido, come, help me, come, Stellan. They're holding their light. Some of these officers were wearing headlamps. They're looking down at their dog. The dog is in a blacked out building. They're staring back into this giant bright light. They don't see the officer. They don't see me. They have no idea that I'm back there. The officer is being very loud and demonstrative, calling for the dog to come save them. At several points, I had to break contact with the officer and step into the light and allow the dog to positively ID me so that I could go ahead and catch their dog and take the bite, because some of these officers were dangerously close to being bitten by their own dog, because the dog is staring straight into a complete flare out. They're looking right into a light, the only light source in this probably 15 or 20,000 square feet of space. It's probably not that big. It's smaller than that. Let me think real quick. 10,000. It was 10,000 square feet anyway. Very large space, and the only light in there is on the officer, and they're pointing it directly back at their dog. This is something tactically that you need to be aware of as a result of this video is, what are your lighting conditions, and are you pointing your light at your dog? And your dog is certainly not going to be aware of the things that you are aware of. And when you're calling your dog and yelling Stellan or Pocken or anything else, they're going to be very confused. They're going to come toward your voice. Their night vision is ruined. They're flared out, looking straight back into the only light source available. So I had to let go of these guys and go ahead and catch the dog so that we didn't have some kind of a bad incident. That is food for thought right there, just in itself. If someone has you, if you were in this auditorium and all things being equal, there is no electricity, it's blacked out, and you were an officer prior to your canine life, if someone's down there beating and banging on metal, if you're looking into that hole and someone grabs you from behind, you didn't have a dog at some point in your career prior to being a dog handler. You didn't start yelling for something else to come and fix it. You started throwing elbows, trying to create space, get this person off of you. But because of basic course syndrome, and then that carrying over to working teams and they go to a seminar, they automatically assume every single problem that I run into is something to be solved by my dog. No, it's not. At this point, you're out of the basic course. You are a street deployed dog team. You are exercising tactical asset management. I have a tactical asset in play. At this point, either my actions, not clearing these two sets of couches, or my training, my dog missed me on odor, on nose, and didn't give me any kind of alert, or I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But in this instance, that tactical asset has not solved the problem. I need to engage in other tactics, techniques, or procedures to try to solve this problem, which a guy hanging from you from behind in the dark, pulling on your sidearm, is a pretty big effing problem. And it's not just for you to stand there and go, Spike, Spike, come get him, Spike, come bite the bad guy for me and save me. No, 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 no. One of the discussions that I've had with the previously mentioned guy from the high-end dog work that's taking place that I spoke of before, he was telling me that they had set up some training and pretty straightforward stuff, nothing crazy or new, things that we've done before, which is going into a bathroom in a building that they had for training in a large um, public style bathroom where it's the tile floor and multiple stalls with the stalls 2 or 3 feet high from the floor, and then all of the metal doors that push in and swing open. And then they go in there with a decoy and a suit, and they perch him up on one of the toilets with his feet off the floor, and they put him in there and let him have a lot of set time. And so the scent is really cooking and moving around in there. And then they go in there and they start sending the dog and letting him work through the building. Pretty straightforward stuff. That's some basic course stuff. The discussion that he and I had was, my dog goes in here and he does this huge bracket and he starts sticking his head under some of the stall doors, but then he goes to the opposite wall and he starts jumping and going towards the ceiling tiles, climbing up the wall directly outside of the stall that the guy is in. And his own words were, the discussion was, he was a little dismayed that the dog didn't go low and go underneath the stall door and grab the guy and finish the apprehension. He was a little dismayed that the dog was trying to go up the opposite wall, which he and I have had this discussion before about the chimney effect, and I have discussed it in this video series before. It was a concept that was rolled out quite some time ago. I think it may have originated from LAPD or Los Angeles County SO, but it is basically a lot of observed targets or attempted apprehensions where some live person in a real world scenario was in a corner or behind some furniture or an obstruction. Because a human is a heat source, a living, breathing heat source, that scent moves up for a bit and it kind of stays with the wall or with the shape of the bathroom stall. It hits the ceiling and it moves along the ceiling for a bit, and as that scent begins to cool a little, that it falls somewhere else away from the actual source, but usually in a straight line from the actual source. And even, again, spending tens of thousands of hours in a bite suit or in street clothes or in a hidden sleeve waiting for dogs to come locate me, I have seen this myself, and it is absolutely a real thing. You might know it by a different name, but it is a real thing. I have seen dogs straight across from my location, as narrow as a hallway that was no more than 8 feet wide, to a closed down classroom in the panhandle of Florida in an abandoned school, in a full-size classroom of several hundred square feet. I was barricaded behind some furniture, and the dog was in the exact perpendicular opposite corner, straight line of sight from me, jumping up and hitting the ceiling tiles due to this chimney effect. So he and I had the discussion that the chimney effect is likely the culprit of why the dog didn't go low, why he was on the exact opposite door, and that he shouldn't view that as a performance failure or a training failure on the part of the dog. Now, why is that? Because we have to look beyond the basic course and get out of basic course syndrome. Just because there was a guy in that stall and he was in there doesn't mean the dog has to bite him in order for the dog to have a successful deployment and to be a good tactical asset in our scenario. Why is that? Because the dog's job is to use its keen nose, eyes, and ears to make us aware of things that we are not aware of on our own, to be an additional set of eyes and ears and a nose, a very keen nose, to start that OODA loop, that observe, orient, decide, and act on our behalf. The dogs, even from soft MPC and GWAT days, is a force multiplier. If I go in there as just one patrol officer who's not canine, I am just an army of one. If I have a backup guy in there, then there's two of us. Anytime we add a dog to that, it's more than just a third set of eyes, ears, and a nose in there because of their extra keen senses in those areas. They're a force multiplier because now they're kind of roaming around doing their own thing. They have this keener nose, the keener ears, and in certainly some situations, the keener eyesight. And we are exploiting that in order to make us aware of things sooner than we would have on our own. So now we're talking about police academy stuff, the reactionary gap. How close do I want something to be to me before I am able to take defensive or offensive actions to deal with this thing once it becomes a threat or shows threat cues? Now we are using a dog because we are way behind the curve. Someone either is or may be in this structure. We don't know where they are. They likely know where we are before we know where they are due to the way we're moving through the building. We're trying to use light and noise discipline to the greatest extent possible, but it's almost guaranteed you're going to be aware of their presence. And again, I fall back on being a decoy in so many of these scenarios, whether it's law enforcement agencies or even your highest levels of special operations programs. I am aware of them before they are aware of me every time. It is so rare that somebody's on top of me before I know that they were that close to me as the bad guy. Normally, it's the other way around. I know about them well ahead of them becoming aware of my presence. So the dog is there to try to give us that reactionary gap for us to go, hey, wait a minute, that's not normal. There could be somebody over there. I need to start paying attention to that quickly. So our discussion was, my feedback to him was, the dog wasn't a fail. Did you see a massive change of behavior from your dog? Answer was yes. The dog has now performed its task and purpose. It has made you aware of something that does not pass as normal when guys are going through multiple rooms. And let's go back to the closed down schoolhouse. This dog goes through 5-6 classrooms that look almost the same, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, and it doesn't matter if it's a detection odor for narc or bomb, or it's scent detection for an actual bad guy. If I've done 5 of the same rooms and then all of a sudden this dog jumps up on this desk and starts climbing the wall, or starts bracketing, or shows some kind of a crazy interest in the cold air return, the grill where the air filter goes for the HVAC, why did he not do that in the 5 previous rooms? There is something different. That is what a change of behavior is at its base level. Why did we have a baseline of, okay, a similar room, a similar room, a similar room, similar behavior patterns, and then we have this huge break from what's normal? That in itself is worthy of an extra bit of investigation on the part of the officer. Not only should the officer be in there conducting their tactical due diligence and checking behind these furnitures, these red zones, looking to these areas, and this is going to bring us to another super important topic that I deal with a lot, even with law enforcement agencies on their training day. And I am going to tell you that this is not anything new, and I'm even going to go back to the GWAT. So when SOF MPC started, there was a point where we became a victim of our own success. You're probably squinting one eye and saying, what are you talking about right now? And that's a fair question. Because we had a large group of guys that were already street worthy, that had already participated in the GWAT in some capacity, Iraq, Afghanistan, or both, and then started standing up these programs and participating in them. They started the program, which was by design, starting the program with an existing knowledge base to try to accelerate the learning curve and get guys better faster than they would have under the normal trajectory. My progression as a law enforcement officer from my first dog forward going out on the road for my agency, it was slow. It was, looking back on it, it was horribly slow because you don't have as much institutional knowledge at your department. Your department is usually a little more compartmentalized. Most departments, they find one kennel, one vendor that they work with. That's where they get their dogs. That's where they do their basic course. They might have a small training group locally. Normally, the trainer is going to be the guy in charge, which was the case at my agency. It was just the guy with the most rank. He'd also had the most time on dogs, but he had only had 2 dogs the whole time in his career up until the point where I had joined the program. And he certainly did not have a ton of expertise, and he was not widely traveled, but he was the trainer because he was also the supervisor, the guy in charge. Sometimes both of those things do line up, and you do have a supervisor who is also the trainer, and he's got the credentials and the chops to do both. Many times they do not. They're just doing the training because I'm in charge and I'm going to tell you this is what I want you to do. So with that being said, we were faster, better because we had the complete unlimited funding of Congress for the global war on terror. We were going everywhere, doing everything, and we accelerated very quickly. We were using seasoned guys to stand the program up with that had been handlers before, and now they were advising on the testing, selection, assessment of dogs, the basic course, the advanced training, all of that. So we got really good really quick and had great results. I love, love, love the 75th Ranger Regiment. Do not get me wrong. Do not take this out of context. One of the first participants in SOF MPC to start having problems started having problems because of their initial success. Again, I'm going back to the crinkled eyebrow. What are you talking about? We started integrating these dogs into the CQB. They're grabbing guys. They're locating enemy fighters. They're biting. They're doing well. They're integrated for breaching, banging, and gunfire. And they are grabbing dudes, and they're grabbing dudes with a high level of accuracy and frequency. It's going very well. What do I mean by becoming a victim of your own success? They started getting more loose with basic CQB and tactical doctrine, which the 75th Ranger Regiment, that is their bread and butter. It is discipline, discipline, discipline. Tactics, drill it again, and drill it one more time and make sure we've got it down. Stick to the plan. Go back through it every single time, every room, take it down, be methodical, be surgical with it. Once these dogs were so successful, these guys started to back off a little bit with that tactical due diligence that I referenced earlier. They started to slide and get soft on their tactical due diligence. Well, the dog was just in there. The dog went in there and hit that room. That room's probably clear. And they started getting some guys shot on target because the dog might have gone through a room or went in there and spent just a little bit of time and came out. And so they started just doing a much more lax secondary clear with personnel of that room, or just kind of breezing by it, not really doing it at all, leaving that tactical due diligence, and some guys started getting shot. They started getting shot due to people under big piles of rugs, the bedding, piles of clothing, things like that, because due to the nature of the target, guys roll in hard on vehicles. They come in fast rope out of aircraft. They land on the X. They get in there. These enemy fighters make a hasty attempt to go and hide. They go and they jump underneath this clothing. They jump underneath these rugs. They jump underneath the bedding that is used when they roll out their bed rolls at night and their blankets. And they get underneath that. And sometimes the dogs did not alert or really dive in there and check those areas extremely tight. Now, part of that can be for The handler is not directing them deep into these corners. They're letting the dog free flow quite a bit, and the dogs had been highly successful during these free flow activities. Now, when we talk about training and basic course in our training days, what is one of the big things we're always concerned about? Set time. Set time for bombs, set time for narcs, set time for bad guys and decoys and people in suits. Guys like to run tracks that are newer than older. That set time when the track really, really ages, and we're trying to go out there and run a track on somebody that's already been gone for half an hour, 2 hours, versus a track that's pretty fresh, that's basically, you know, a vehicle pursuit, crash out and runaway, where boom, you're either the pursuing officer and you're dead hot on this thing, or someone else that you heard on the shift was chasing them, and you hear them crash out and they're calling for the dog, and you're there within 5 or 10 minutes. It's a really hot track for bombs, narcs, and bad guys. We want that set time. Well, you're just screwing me on this training problem because I'm the first one in here, and it's, you know, it's only been out for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, etc. Set time does matter. It is a real thing. That's a major issue. So I'm not poo-pooing the idea or the fact that we do it, but you have to be aware of how it factors in and what kind of results your dog is going to give as a result of that. So when you are landing on a target, when you pull up and all of a sudden they're blowing the door off of your compound, and you run and you make a hasty hide site under some of these closed rugs or bedding, your set time is minimal. When the dog misses that, and because of our success, we have a degradation of our tactics, we don't conduct that tactical due diligence, and then we give up our back to somebody, and then they pop out and shoot or throw a grenade, that's highly problematic. And we did have some of that happening during the GWAT because the dogs were so reliable and effective that guys just kind of started to get lax and said, well, the dog will get it. If the dog came in and out of there, then it's good. That room's good. Dog went in there, didn't alert, didn't grab anybody, it's good. Keep rolling. Next room. And some guys got hurt because of that. So, not saying anything bad. We're talking about human nature and making sure we're aware of failures so that we don't fall into the same thing. So now we go back to the police side of it. Even in recent times, guys go on their training day, and I've been over there to assist from my former soft MPC role. And guys would say, well, you know, a week ago, last week, we went to this trailer and we're trying to serve a warrant, and the dog went up and down the hallway and didn't show anything. And then, you know, all of a sudden we're going through there and we pull the shower curtain back, and then there stands this guy or there stands this woman, and they're in the shower and the dog didn't show us anything. Okay, what's the problem here? I know in the real world, as an extension of basic course syndrome, what we are envisioning in our mind is what we've set up so many times at the basic course or on the training day, is we've put somebody in there and they've been in there a long time, and we've got plenty of set time because we want the dog to be successful, and we want that scent coming out of there, and we want something for the dog to locate and teach the lesson of observe, orient, decide, and act. You smelled it, you figured out where it's coming from, you decided to follow it, you follow it all the way to source, and then you act on an apprehension. Ideally, that is what we are looking for. But when you pull up to a house to serve a warrant and someone makes a hasty hide in the shower, or even if they were in the shower already and they don't even have clothes on, there's not going to be as much scent because they are standing in the shower, actively taking a shower. You've got water landing on them, pulling some of the scent down the drain, I am sure. They're not sweating. They're not extremely hot because they're not standing in there in the bite suit, marinating in their own juices the way we are on training day. It could have been something where they just heard you coming and they've only been in that shower for less than 2 minutes since you've been in the house going room to room in this trailer. There are a whole host of reasons that there may not be scent available. that doesn't mean that our dog is a fail. It definitely means that we have to conduct our tactical due diligence and understand that this is tactical asset management. We're not putting a saddle on our dog and just riding it to victory. It is a team. We have to do what we know as far as tactics and put the thought process into making sure, oh, did we do the right thing? Did we clear this building the way we should have? So I had guys pull their dog off of scent that were on me because the guy heard the banging in the basement and wanted to go in there. They would do a quick cursory peek over this one, and I would see them do it, and I would lay right there and just wait. And the minute they put all of their focus on this hole to the sub level, then boop, out I would come, and I'd go over here and grab them. Some of these guys, the dog would be on me, and when the noise really got extra loud or Jason kicked it up a notch, the dog left a target that it was already orienting to on nose and went on ears and went to the noise. This is another pet peeve that I have. Guys taking this PSA mental illness away from the sport arena and thinking that this wild, way overstimulated, over decoyed, outlandishly aggressive decoy work is what you want to measure your dog by. If you are working a street dog, law enforcement, or tactical military, you do not want a dog that requires overstimulation in order to key up on a bad guy. We want them to stay with nose. We want them to be dedicated to nose, and we want them to register a target even if the target is very calm or almost completely unanimated, what we would call dead prey. Whether they're standing up or face down or supine, it doesn't matter. If they're not moving or they're just acting like normal, we still want that dog to be able to key up on them and for that officer to be able to make sure that that dog acquires them as the person of interest. When that dog doesn't, when you see situations where the dog breaks away or just won't register that person, it's likely a result of way over the top, overdone, overstimulated decoy work, because that's what's cool and that's what's on Instagram and that's what gets all the likes, and people engage in it. If your dog will bite someone who is very low key with normal interactions and normal hand movements and gestures, and they're speaking at a voice level that is commensurate with the surroundings, they're not screaming and losing their mind and waving their hands above their head. If your dog will take a normal acting person of street demeanor, I promise you they will grab the guy who acts like a complete jackass. Your complete methed out, cracked out, arms swinging, pacing back and forth, shouting profanities. If you can get the guy who is dead prey, I promise you can get the guy who is over the top. Do a little bit of strong bite work. Make sure your dog is inoculated to that picture. Make sure that stress doesn't take your dog out of the fight. But if you have a dog that was right here on me inside of these couches, and it's doing a bracket on nose, and then noise makes that dog like a light switch kick off of nose and run to this noise, you are doing too much over the top bite work that is overstimulating to your dog, and your dog left something that was absolutely he was aware of on nose and went and took the bait, and that's why we put that bait out there. The other thing is, guys, not just putting in 5 or 6 more steps and going over here and conducting their tactical due diligence and looking in there at me to verify if I'm in there or not. Some of these guys were walking around so tunnel visioned on their dogs. One guy was about to leave me and the dog was going to the noise, and I watched his head do a double take because he saw just enough color from the edge of the light cast by his hand light that he saw me down there in that couch and, oh shit, and shines his light in there and caught me. He just got lucky. I'm aware of the time, how long I've been talking, and I'm going to try to get quickly to the next piece of this. So this was day 1 and 2. I nabbed a lot of guys. Dogs were leaving me. Guys were pulling their dogs off of me to go and go over here and see what the noise was. It was basic course syndrome, and it was horrible. Now we move on to the next 2 days, which we did a competition style event. And again, I'm always wanting to work that +1. So for events like that, I always do a set of handwritten instructions. That way, everybody can read for themselves what's on the paper. They get the same brief. You didn't get a shorter version or a longer version, because if you have something like that, a scenario set up, and you run 20 or more teams through it, you're never going to verbally brief the exact same thing the exact same way every single time. And if you're going to score it and you're going to make it a competitive event, you're going to have to make sure everybody was working with the exact same information to a T. So that's why I write it down. Jason, very key in this one in particular, because I wanted 3 decoys involved in the scenario, but I wanted to head fake people and send them in there mentally looking for 2. And that was going to be a scoring component of if people could get that third one, trust their dog, stay mentally engaged in the tactics long enough, pay enough attention to their dog. This was for really switched on dog teams to make what I was calling the clean run. Another component to this is something that came strictly from the SOF MPC GWAT era. During my time with SOF MPC, the different personalities involved and handlers and programs who all had their own thoughts on things. The question eternally was, well, if you go on target, what's more important, a bomb or a man? In other videos, I have addressed this before when asked about that, and I gave it real serious thought. My answer was then, is now, and always will be, they're both bad, and you need to have your dog alert you to the presence of those in order, and then it is your decision tactically of how you're going to proceed from there. Are you going to say, okay, well, that was an odor detection alert or change of behavior from my dog? Is this something I address now? Or are we going to what they call mark and bypass? We're going to throw down a chem light, get on the radio, make everybody aware of it, and we're not going to screw with that or go deeper into that area as we continue further on looking for potential enemy fighters. So do we deal with it now? Do we bail out on this target altogether? Hey, we're just inside the breach. My dog's showing a major change of behavior. I think this is an alert to bomb odor. Are we going to bail on this thing altogether? Or are we going to mark and bypass, continue forward and look for man? That's where we get into tactical asset management. My dog made me aware of something that I wasn't aware of on my own, and now I'm going to make an informed decision about what we do next. So on my piece of paper, Jason was key with the language of, you are searching for 2 known suspects. Known being the key word, because he said we don't want to make people mad. We can't give them the wrong idea and really screw them, and we're not setting out to screw them. That's not the point of this. But I wanted to see who was really switched on so that we could separate who was really a high-end street-worthy team versus who is in the basic course syndrome or just trying to speed run a venue in order to win first place. So we put known suspects in there, and then we also had the other component I was referencing, which is a detection piece. So we put 3 bad guys in bite equipment available in the building, and we put 1 odor hide each, 1 narc and 1 bomb available to whichever team came through, if it was a bomb team or a narc team. So this is something that we pushed out from SOF MPC that the police world has now started to take a hold of and pay attention to, and even integrate that into some of their training. And I'm very grateful for that. And even though if you're a narc team and you're going to say, well, you know, if we go into a building, we can always search for the narc after the fact. Sure, you can. But being able to do what we call from the SOF MPC and other programs was transition to go from that search for personnel for man and then go back and pick up your sensitive site exploitation, which using your dog on detection is certainly a part of that, as well as guys doing hand searches and looking for electronic devices, cell phones and hard drives and the sort. So part of that is going to be, okay, we just went in here, we told the dog we're looking for man, the dog ran around in here, maybe the dog apprehended one or two enemy personnel and they're really keyed up, but now we've got to mentally flip that dog back into ookie shookie suki time, and I need you to go and sniff around this building and look for bombs, bomb making material, weapons, ammunition, things of that sort. Or in the stateside policing world, go back and do a good thorough narcotics search. In SOF MPC and other activities, time for that transition was of a premium depending on where you're at. If you're in an urban setting, the whole village / city or city block that you're on is now aware of your presence, and they're coming. And they're getting ready to try to trap you, drop an anvil on you, do something bad, bad, before you can get off target. So time is of a premium for these programs. And if you're going to do a good, thorough search with your dog, the transition time has got to be at a minimum to get that dog off of just trying to go to wherever the last two guys were that he bit, or wherever you're holding the one or two or more personnel that were apprehended, or even non-combatants, females and children, trying to make sure your dog isn't just trying to sneak into that room and grab a cheap bite. So being able to do this was very important, and now it's become a graded component of some of the lanes in these seminars, which is, was your dog able to snap out of hunting for personnel and locate this narc or bomb odor aid? Or at the end of it, depending on where this is placed, did you have 1, 2, or 3 engagements with decoys, and then did your dog snap out of it? And at least, because again, in these scenarios, you can call your change of behavior. You can call an alert. Your dog doesn't have to give that final finished trained behavior for an alert. You're more than able to say, that is a bracket. I know that is odor. I recognize it. I'm calling that. That's my hide. And you're absolutely right. Nice job. So now the policing community is starting to say, okay, we see some benefit in that. Not that it's a time sensitive function or that we have to do it, but having a dog that's switched on and able to come in and out of that mode mentally of, I need to close distance and bite bad guys, or now I need to do detection for narc or bomb. So that is a component. So on the paper, on the written brief, we have 2 known suspects. Immediately I put 3 in there, and I put 1 in the stairwell. So we are on one of the floors of the hotel. I went from 1 fire stairwell. We did a complete floor of rooms, and then we exited the stairwell on the far side. You're on the clock, door to door on the stairwells, infill to exfil. Everything is in play from door to door. So many times in training, not only in police training, but also even special operations training, the stairwells get overlooked between floors as being a productive area where something might be. So in the first stairwell, I was able to find a landing at one of the switchbacks where a guy could be underneath there. And we put in one of the 2-wheeled trash carts that you roll out to the curb. We put a clean trash cart in there, a couple of Amazon boxes, and then we put a Halloween animatronic in there in front of it. And now whenever the dog or the handler would go by, this little werewolf animatronic would woo, and the red eyes would flash. So even if a dog did get on scent and begin to bracket right there, once the motion detector set off our animatronic, handlers would get embarrassed and frustrated and, fool, get out of there, quit messing around. I think out of 24 teams that there were 3 clean sweeps, meaning they got all 3 of the guys. And as far as people who didn't get all three, but got the guy in the stairwell as two of the three possible, I think that number was about 6. So because so many people felt this social pressure of, oh, there's an animatronic there and my dog is also really interested in this, they abandoned tactical due diligence due to feeling awkward for social reasons because, oh, that's dumb. My dog's completely screwing me right now because there's an animatronic there, and they gave up and they pressed on. I had a guy get to that landing. He's standing over the dude and his dog's still bracketing. And he stopped and he went, ah, and he kept going. He even second guessed himself. He was totally going to go back, and he went ahead and continued forward. Another guy, to his credit, he got onto that landing, and because I'm following and I'm also the backup, and he says, you know what? Something ain't right about that. I'm going back. And he puts his dog over the rail. He goes over the landing. Boom, dog busts through the Amazon boxes and grabs the guy, nails him. I was so proud of that guy because, yes, there was something wrong with that. You were going to give up, and then you had the wherewithal to go, you know what? No, I'm not leaving it. I'm going to go back, and this deserves further investigation. So we get up on the floor. It is a long hallway, lots of hotel room doors. Some of the rooms had vandalism and copper theft to the point where they weren't safe for the dog to be in. So I went ahead and closed those doors as part of the written instructions. No door is to be opened or closed. If it's a closed door and you want to call a door bottom or search any door bottom, go right ahead. And I'm kind of paraphrasing my instructions. I wrote it a lot better sounding and more professional than that. But don't open or close any doors. If you want to check door bottoms, go ahead. If you need to call a door bottom, call it, but don't open it. Got it? Got it. So another piece that I want to incorporate here, talking about our stateside law enforcement friend that we have these big discussions about, is, and again, basic course syndrome. We had the discussion the other day about how so many of these targets that they go on and search warrants that they're serving, we know who you're serving them on. Everybody watching this who's in law enforcement already knows or has a good idea. It doesn't matter what state you're in. It is pretty rare that you are taking down a drug kingpin and your target is a 6,000 square foot mansion that's really nice. The majority of the time, you are going to a small, maybe 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that's 1,500 square feet or less, sometimes 1,000 or 900 square feet. You are doing a mobile home, most likely. That is probably a 3-2, 2-2, or a 2-1 as far as your bedroom to bathroom count. Maybe 900 square feet. So in reality, and I'm going back to what I started with when I said we're going to talk about the whole train like you fight discussion, this guy even admitted to me as we talked that on training day, they go find these massive schools or industrial areas, and they go out and they do searches that take 15 or 20 minutes when their average target, real world, working every day, is 800 or 900 square feet. And as a result of this, sometimes they begin to have a failure or can potentially create a failure that puts doubt into the confidence of you as a team when you go into these 800 or 900 square foot structures. This is an anthropomorphic view. It has been something that I've been aware of for over 20 years now, is the difference between what are most agencies doing with their dog when they get that call to go use their dog for real, and what do you think a training day should look like. Now, once in a while, you may have a forced entry at the local high school or at the middle school, and you need to go in there and check that. Or you find a door that's unsecure, and you've got to go in there and check this building, maybe go through with a key holder, make sure nobody's in there and get it locked up. But that's usually an outlier. Most agencies are not going out and knocking down 5, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 square feet of space during a single search. So we have this anthropomorphic view of, even though Monday through Friday, work week speaking, we go out and we're hitting trailers and houses that are 1,500 square feet or less. Maybe this trailer or small square footage house has a small barn or a tool shed on the property that you're going to hit as well. You're not out there doing 5,000 square feet with 20 rooms back to back to back to back. Not for detection for narcotics, certainly not for patrol looking for man. But then when we go to training day, we have this impulse of, oh, well, the dog really needs to work for it on training day. We need to really expand what the dog is doing. No, stick with your normal square footage and do what makes sense. Go hit 2 or 3 blanks, small square footage houses on your training day, and only have one that's loaded. And don't always make it the last one of the day that, oh, well, the dog's got to end on the win. I want to end on the one that has the dope in it or the bomb or the man. Make it the very first one and then do 3 blank houses after that and call it a training day. Once you are out of the basic course, we need to leave basic course syndrome behind and not have it follow us. So we don't need to be anthropomorphic and work one way and then go and do the complete opposite on our training day. This is exactly, and don't get it wrong, I did this. I did this to myself because I didn't have a lot of knowledge at my department and a ton of training support. I was doing things to try to improve and make myself and my dog better, and I would get these wild performance differences between things that I did on the street. I would go to car lots on third shift, the co-op, the tire shop, things like that would have cars overnight. And I would put out drug hides on these cars and let them sit for a couple of hours, and then I would come back and run them. I know these cars aren't going anywhere. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Nobody is bringing or leaving with a car between midnight and 02. So I'm going to go out and put a couple of drop aids on these things and then come back with my dog and run them. My dog got to the point I could have done a parking lot or a parking garage at a major stadium, at a pro stadium, and that dog would do every car like his life depended on it, because in these large, laid back, hands off, find it yourself searches, he was always going to be successful at some point. And even when I ran blanks, I was still going to go run another lot somewhere down the line. He was going to hit pay dirt at some point as long as he stuck with it. And I got that dog phenomenal at doing tons of cars. On the other side of that coin, because when I would stop cars, I had a pretty good hit rate as far as pulling over cars that eventually led to having narcotics in them. But even at a 50% success rate, which I didn't have, I think 30%, 25%, so 3 in 10, maybe some nights I'd get lucky, maybe 4 in 10. That's a pretty wide difference in when the dog got out and saw me working just one car in front of the vehicle with the lights on. He was completely just lackluster. He would get out like, come on, buddy, we got one car to do. But because historically, when he looks at that win-loss sheet, wow, well, when you pull over one single car on duty in uniform, it is less than 50% that I'm going to find something. And his performance, his output reflected that. I'm going to go over here and search this with all the enthusiasm of this is a 50% or less proposition that I'm going to walk away with something. If I pulled over at a car lot, or when they invited us to come out and search the parking lot at the high school during a school day, that dog would get out and look at 10 acres of cars and lick his chops, because he knew if I go out here and I stick with it, I am going to find something. So in that instance, I created a pretty big difference, a noticeable difference in the effectiveness of my dog based on the venue that I was working, and that was not something that I wanted to have happen. So part of the basic course syndrome is, if, like this guy, you're hitting houses and trailers, go put your dope out and go put your guys out and run plenty of blanks in the rundown 1,000 square foot houses and in the trailers, because now your dog is going to have a proper outlook about how much do I need to search and what is that outlook going to be. Uh-oh. Call him back. That's my cousin. So how does that translate back to things that I observed during our competition portion of the seminar in Mississippi? Because I've got this long hallway and it is a much larger target than what most people do, even for a training day or for practical applications. And I closed off a lot of rooms to try to just limit it to the hallway and to certain areas on this floor and to the 2 stairwells, because I knew I needed this thing to not drive guys and dogs crazy. I'm not trying to crash dogs. It's already going to be a ton of square footage to search in the first place. So I need to make this somewhat realistic and manageable. So guys would get to the point where if they didn't get the first guy in the stairwell, and if they got the first guy we came to or not, a lot of these closed doors, the guys are so sure, and their dogs were really nice. Dogs are working their asses off. They're putting in the effort. Guys will start checking door bottoms and rechecking door bottoms. And then we get into the bad OODA loops, and guys start, yeah, no, he's showing a change. No, he's not. Keep going. No, he's showing a change. Nope, that's blank. I promise. Keep going. I'm not going to let you ruin your dog for the sake of a competition. I'm here to help you improve and give you things to think about, not ruin your dog. So because of the size of the venue that we were running, part of your basic course syndrome that I'm challenging here is the frequency of training aids that you think are necessary given the scope and scale of the area that you're going to use. Too often, guys go out and I'm going to use this 20,000 square foot warehouse and it's going to be a reward-a-palooza. I'm going to go put 10 narc hides or 10 bomb hides in this thing, and it's going to just be boom, 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 boom. Even if guys go lean, I watch them start getting into a habit of the intervals at which they start placing hides. There is an agency that I'm not going to name or even reference the state. All of the guys that were in it at the time that I was really in touch with those guys are gone, retired, promoted out of it. But I still have a real affection in my heart for this agency, for the legacy of the work that was done there, and for the guys that were a part of it that I knew. And I'm very supportive of them at all times. Want to see them do well and continue the good, aggressive work that they've done for many years that I personally know of. The first guy from that agency is about halfway down the hall. His dog is working its ass off. The dog is not trying to give any false alerts. The dog's not shutting down. This guy starts hammering the shit out of his dog. Check it door bottom. Check it. Check this. Check back. Check it back again. Check back again. Check. Like, dude, stop. Ease up. Your dog is doing great. You're doing fine. Trust me. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're starting to get real neurotic and manic right now, and you're starting to really bang these door bottoms. There's got to be something here. I keep him going. They do fine. We get them through it. Another handler, another team from the exact same agency comes through. It blew my mind. It was uncanny. At almost the exact same point in this hallway, that handler started acting the same way as the other handler. Starts hammering his dog, checking and rechecking door bottoms, hammering him on door bottoms, and the dog's searching it. He's searching his ass off. He's peeling the fake wood grain off of these hotel room doors. You couldn't get any more into the search than what these dogs were doing. They were hitting it. They're getting after it. And this guy starts to really get panicky that he hasn't found something yet. So I go outside and we in the time, we got all the way through it, and we got at the end, and on the debrief I said, hey, you need to get with the other handler from your agency who went ahead of you. The two of you need to talk, and you need to go back and take a real close look at your training days, because it is not coincidence that the two of you as handlers both started to melt down at the exact same point, both measured by time and distance on that floor in that hotel. Because at home, I guarantee you, historically, whoever is laying the hides, you both started absolutely getting just neurotic about, why didn't I find something? Why hasn't the dog hit something? This is about the point where we should have something happening. And this is a carryover to the basic course syndrome where, oh, I should have things at a predictable interval so my dog doesn't get bored or my dog doesn't shut down. They're not as sensitive as we think they are. And once you're out of the basic course and you're on the street and you're working calls the way every attendee at this seminar was, you need to have that out of your head and behind you. This is where we're moving into the real world. We're working our dog every day. We can work a small target, a big target. Your dog is reliable. But if you as the handler start to have a meltdown based on, oh, I haven't found something yet, that's because your training is mirroring basic course training to the point that it's created this mental image for you, which has now become a performance impediment that now you're starting to freak out because you haven't found the guy yet. I know this is getting long. Another one was guys who would have their dog do a huge change of behavior, and then they didn't even walk over and look. At the elevator bank in the middle of the floor, part of the sheetrock had been broken away from the wall, and it was wide enough for a man to turn, and it was a pipe chase to go behind these elevator shafts. It was not connected to the elevator shaft. There's no hazard for people or dogs, but there's the pipe chase along the exterior wall, and it was big enough for a person to turn their shoulders sideways and step into. And then we just kind of casually propped the little piece of sheetrock back so the dog couldn't just easily run in there. Dogs were jumping up onto the HVAC unit and sticking their noses on each side of this piece of sheetrock, looking into a hole that goes into a wall with no lights in there, big enough for a person to be in. And handlers were, come on, let's go. Do what? Now we go back to the discussion I had earlier with the guy who's doing the high-end work. That dog is a detector tool. It doesn't have to push its way through the sheetrock on its own. It doesn't have to give you a final alert. It doesn't even have to start clawing violently and barking. And we did have a guy in there in a full bite suit, and he'd been in there for hours and hours. So set time was not an issue. The handler was at the end of a 30-foot line, saw this big bracketing behavior. The dog's climbing up on the HVAC, sticking its head into this wall, and he didn't even walk over there and do a quick peek and conduct that tactical due diligence to look into that pipe chase and see, why is my dog having a change of behavior? Out of all the rooms that we've been in, out of all of the things that we've cleared up to this point, why did my dog act the way he's acting right now? And I should go over and do a quick peek on that and dig a little bit deeper and find out, why is my dog doing that? So we had a great time. The guys really enjoyed the feedback. I got a lot of positive comments about the scenario. Guys kicking themselves because they doubted their dog. The dog's trying to go behind the animatronic. The handler's pulling them off. Guys who got in there, and I'm overhearing them, okay, that's two guys. Now I need to find that drug odor. No, even if you have intelligence on a military target, or you have search warrants that with arrest warrants that name one or two people in particular, the target's not clear until the target is clear. Even in the instructions, it says the scenario runs from door to door. The stairwells are in play. The whole floor is in play. we're not done until you leave the building. So when you get in there, even if you have information that we're looking for one person, two people, three people, conduct that due diligence, go ahead and go the extra mile. Make sure that you do all of the basic things and don't rely on the success of your dog to save you, or previous successes to say, well, there's nothing in here to find or worth looking at, because historically my dog has been very accurate. And we had teams out of Texas that Stanzi bought their dogs and did the basic courses for these guys, and they are doing serious high-end work in very, very rough areas of Texas, going out and interdicting tactical targets with people associated with them on a nightly basis, and they're being successful. And some of those guys even had some struggles or some real stumbles in parts of the scenarios that we laid out, because not only were they successful, being a victim to their success, expecting, well, if the guy had been here, the dog would have done it, or going, hey, the dog's going to do it. I don't have to search every corner. And I'm not saying that. You don't have to go in and do a hand search of everything, but you need to conduct that tactical due diligence. So I was very fired up following the week of that seminar. Again, if you want to check it out, you won't find any better people than Lieutenant Paul Leslie and all of the guys on his team down there in DeSoto County. The sheriff, very, very supportive, a very nice guy. Highly recommend. It's a very affordable seminar. It's not ridiculous and over the top. So keep that in mind. Look at it for next year. Leecha, Leecha, DeSoto County, Mississippi. Beautiful county. Lots of nice places to eat. A beautiful downtown. Well worth the trip. Gorgeous place to go. Highly recommend. Thank you for watching. Tell me what you think. Hit me up in the comments or on Instagram. Appreciate it. We'll catch you on the next one.